So at the end of last week, I finally finished the full read through of draft 3 of the current manuscript that I'm working on. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Tara East. I'm a writer, a YouTuber, and a lecturer in creative writing, as well as the author of the mystery novel Every Time He Writes. Editing Tara here. The book is not called Every Time He Writes. The book is called Every Time He Dies, even though that is part of the intro every single video for the last 4 years. In today's video, I want to talk about the concept of slow writing and giving yourself permission to do your creative practice slowly. But before we get into today's content, I wanted to give a short announcement first. So, I am going to be hosting an online writing workshop on Sunday, the 1st of June. This 2-hour writing workshop is very activity-based, and all of the activities, all of the writing tasks are designed to reconnect you with your creative practice or to strengthen it if you already have an existing one. If you are an emerging writer and you're still developing your practice, these activities will help you as well. This workshop will center around the principles that are developed by Natalie Goldberg in her approach to writing and writing practice. And it's very much based on the idea of writing practice, which is something I've spoken about before on this channel. So yes, you might have your novel or your short story that you're developing, but in order to get better at writing in general, it's really good to have a writing practice, a place where you can experiment with different writing techniques and really stretch your abilities, but it's also in a space where it doesn't matter. It's okay if you fail at this technique because you're still trying to develop it. So this workshop is really aimed at both new as well as established writers in both fiction or non-fiction. A lot of the activities are quite malleable, so we can sort of shift and bend them and change them as you need, depending on what it is you're trying to develop or work on. Participants in this workshop will learn strategies to remain curious and open within their writing, tools for moving through creative blocks, including the blank page, ways to move through perfectionism and procrastination, and ideas to further enrich your creative practice. These workshops will be capped at 12 people. That way it's nice and cozy. We can have some conversation without it becoming an overwhelming number. And of course, if you can't attend the session live on the day, I will record the session and make it available to everyone. I will be hosting 2 different sessions on Sunday, the 1st of June. The first session will run from 9 to 11 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, and the second workshop will run from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. also Australian Eastern Standard Time. I have posted links to both of those workshops, the 2 respective times, in the description box below. But of course, if you have any questions, you can reply to this video, or you can shoot me an email at authortaraeast@gmail.com. Okay, with that bit of housekeeping done, let's get into the meat of this week's video. So before I get into the idea of slow writing, I want to provide a little bit of context. So at the end of last week, I finally finished the full read through of draft 3 of the current manuscript that I'm working on. I spend 25 minutes a day working on my own writing, so it took approximately 4 months in order to read the whole book. Now, of course, I didn't just read the book. As I was reading the book, I was taking really extensive notes of what happened in each chapter, so providing a summary of every chapter, so that I could produce a timeline for the entire book because it spans a number of decades, and then I wanted to outline the book as it currently stands. What have I actually written in this version of the story? With this bird's eye view, it was so much easier to get a sense of the book as a whole, so that then I could go about performing a proper structural edit on the book as it currently stands, so that I can see what's happening with the plot, do I have complete character arcs, how's the theme sort of developing, all of that stuff, and I could see it at a glance. This strategy is, of course, a type of reverse engineering. By outlining the content of draft 3, I'll now be able to create a new outline so that I can plan and go about creating draft 4. Through this really extensive note-taking, I identified a number of inconsistencies and contradictions within the book, but it also gave me a chance to really reflect on the characters, the plot, setting, and theme. I had an opportunity to question whether I liked a particular scene or a particular development of the plot. Do I like the theme, or does it feel a bit too on the nose, or maybe is there an imbalance between showing and telling? All those sorts of questions. Now, at times, to be totally honest, going through this particular stage of the revision process felt painfully slow. Because I was rereading the book and doing this sort of note-taking, and I could only spend really 25 minutes a day on it, it felt so slow, and as I mentioned, it took 4 months, and at times I wanted to speed things up. Now, of course, I could have done this. I could have sped things up. I could have given up on any number of other activities so that I could do this. So I could have given up reading, meal prep, cleaning, exercise, socializing, walking the dogs. I could have given up that life stuff. But the reality is that's just not very realistic, and I certainly couldn't compromise any of my paid work in order to do this unpaid work. Now, slow may be slow, but at least it is sustainable. And let's be honest, it's a lot easier to find 20 minutes in a day than it is to find multiple hours. But of course, everybody's life is different. All of our lives are busy, and they're just getting busier. We're desperate for tips and tricks about time management, scheduling, prioritization, and optimization. We want life hacks and shortcuts. And while technology has done a lot of work to remove tedious domestic tasks that consume our time and zap our energy, we're all still complaining about being time poor and exhausted. So these days, we expect more from life and from ourselves, but creative people, this whole approach to productivity can obviously be quite distressing. I frequently come back to the habit of scheduling and time blocking as a way to really keep myself honest about what can realistically be achieved in a day. It's one of the best ways I know to manage my own expectations and keep things realistic. So once I've blocked out all the essentials, writing time, editing time, teaching time, exercise, walking the dogs, my day is pretty well spoken for. But time management, tight scheduling, deadlines, and optimization tactics can quickly become problematic because, let's face it, there is nothing efficient about making art. The 25 minutes I spend writing every day may not seem like much, but it does allow me to be consistent, and it helps me feel like a writer. Now, there are, of course, times where I don't get to do my 25 minutes of writing because I have to do some other urgent task. Maybe a deadline was moved forward. Maybe something else has happened that's really urgent. Maybe other people are involved in a project and they need something from me today and not tomorrow. So things like this can obviously happen, but I do try my best to protect my writing time. Just had to take my jacket off, it was getting a bit warm. Maintaining a weekly schedule may better your chances of completing big goals and reaching those deadlines, but it can also become a source of anxiety and tedium. Now, I like to be productive, but I also don't want to be miserable while doing it. When she was asked during an interview about why it takes so long for her to write a book, author Donna Tartt responded by saying, "If you're not enjoying something, it's because you're doing it too fast." And that's the idea I really want to explore within this video, the idea of slow writing. So with that in mind, here are some gentle suggestions for you to ponder. Giving yourself permission to wander. Think of a schedule as a trail map. It can lead you up a mountain, but it's also important that you pay attention to your immediate surroundings. If you spot a narrow path through the bushes, give yourself permission to really wander that alternative route. Because who knows, you might find an even better, more impressive view. If you are the type of writer that typically follows a very strict outline, you might consider putting that outline into a drawer and free writing for a while. Maybe you have a character from a previous scene that you found really interesting and you'd like to spend a little bit more time with them. Maybe there's a romantic subplot you need to flesh out. even if it's only to improve your understanding of why these characters are going to wind up together. Not everything you produce is going to be publishable, and not everything you produce is going to be published. So why not take this time to write a scene with minor characters who have piqued your interest? Sometimes these relaxed approaches to writing can really spark new ideas that then become relevant to your larger project. Good art doesn't have to take a long time, but it often does. Now, you can approach your art through a very brutal attitude of perseverance and dissatisfaction as you're trying to wrangle your story into shape, or you can choose to approach your story through a joyful and energizing point of view. Now, in both instances, hopefully the book will get done, but these two authors have had a completely different experience of working on their novel. You might be the type of writer who studiously researches and constructs a careful outline before you start writing. But the truth is, we often don't know what we're doing until we start actively engaging with a project, and a story can change in the act of writing it as well. People might not think of writing as a tactile act, but I think it is. Planning and outlining are really helpful, but we don't often know what the story is going to be until we're in the process of writing it, because we get a sense of what feels organically true for the story. Rather than following a strict outline, we can instead follow our feelings and our sense of what we are trying to accomplish as a way to tow us towards the watery image that is maybe in our mind's eye. It is through the act of writing that this image then gathers shape, constructs its own body, and consequently gets a will of its own. It's important to hold your outline and intentions for a novel lightly, because a story can have a mind of its own. Some authors might work very tediously on an outline and then follow it to a T, whereas others may mentally map out their entire plot ahead of time so that their writing sessions are as effective as possible. An alternative approach is to just let the story come out as it wants to come out through the process of discovery writing. Now, outlines can be tremendously useful because they can save you a lot of time up front, but if you've been a reader for a long time, then it's possible that you already have an innate understanding of narrative structure. Have confidence in your subconscious and in your story, especially during the writing of a zero draft or even a first draft. Sometimes it's helpful to open your document and let the story tell you where it wants to go. Switch off your analytical mind and allow the scene to occur organically. When you create from a relaxed state, you might come up with better ideas or notice previously unseen connections. You may get the sudden idea to bring back a minor character from an earlier chapter, or maybe you finally notice a previously unseen plot hole that has now come to your attention. If free writing isn't your style, you can always spend 5 minutes constructing a mini outline prior to your writing session. That way, you have a general idea of where you're going, but you also have space for spontaneity. Now, I am all for loose, fast drafting in the early development of a story as a way to keep your writing practice playful, but I am also a very big believer in good revision and lots of editing so that your story is a pleasure to read. Now, when it comes to revision, I think we can also apply this process of slow writing, slow revision. We've all heard the saying that words that are easy to read are rarely easy to write, so take your time to think and revise your work slowly. You might choose, for example, to revise your manuscript in layers so that each pass has a very specific focus. For instance, for myself, my first drafts are usually really concerned with the mechanics of a story, the actual plot, what's even happening in this book. So I might ask myself, what are the story beats? What is happening here, to whom, and why? Is this event moving the plot forward or revealing character? Is this event even interesting? What is this book about? And what is this book really about? Later revisions, for me, might focus on other story elements such as character, arc, mood, theme, symbol, voice, style, tension and pace, all the other building blocks of narrative. So of course, you may revise your novel in an entirely different order. Again, give yourself permission to approach the writing process in a slow, way, and in whatever way works for you, your writing style, and your manuscript. While the practice of writing slow feels really at odds with our general work culture, it is vital that as creative people, we give ourselves permission to approach our art at a pace that actually works well for us, our lives, and the work we're trying to develop. Good art does take time, so don't be afraid to slow down and meander. Chances are your novel will be all the better for it. Okay, everybody, that's all I have for you today. And as one final caveat, I just want to say the purpose of these videos is to give you ideas around ways to approach your writing. There is no one way to write. Everybody writes differently. So everything I said in this video may not resonate with you at all, and that's perfectly fine. This is just advice given to you to hopefully give you some inspiration and maybe some different ways of approaching your writing, and that's the only intention here. As I mentioned at the start of this video, I'll be hosting 2 workshops on Sunday, the 1st of June. Links to the tickets are below, and if you have any questions, ask away. Now, if you'd like even more writing advice, you can of course check out the other videos on this channel, or you can go to my website, taraeast.com, and dive into the archives. While you're there, consider joining my email newsletter. When you do, I'll send you a free gift plus a newsletter in your inbox whenever I write one, and it includes a note by me, some resources I've recently loved and think you will too, as well as some resources that I only share via email. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you got something out of it. Now go do some writing because the world actually does need more books.